And then the counter plan, I'm going to answer conditionality on the top. And the rest of the counter plan will be in the 1 and R. The trade-off disad. And then politics. Yep. The security critique. The counter plan, and I will just insert conditionality. The trade-off disad. And then the politics disad. Anyone not ready? Want to do it one more time?
Yeah, do it one more time.
Yeah.
What's up, Anderson?
What's the problem, Anderson? Okay.
The 1AC enacts the story of Henny Penny, a chicken who had a rock fall into her head and soon the sky was falling. In an effort to save everyone, Henny Penny instigated fear and chaos into her neighbors over the impending doom. The 1AC is not constructing a threat, but instead instigating fear and paranoia in order to justify planned action. The spectacle of catastrophe and annihilation justifies space militarization of conflict in effort to be the savior of the world. Proven by the 2AC hegemony add-on. Only option is to remove these forms of securitized notions from our politics. Now, onto the line by line. They say the permutation, but the perm still links doomsday. Asteroids are culture production that fit into an apocalyptic ideology of US as a savior, which justifies imperial expansion and militarization. Mellor in 2007. Centuries-long tradition, future war fiction, shaped the apocalyptic ideology in which American technological genius puts an end of all war, fulfilled America's destiny, and cultural fantasy has been more materialistic, producing actual super-corrupt development events, policies, impact threat scientists, cultural fantasy step further, they politically established the reality of a threat which configured to work and whose technological defeat was bringing earthly harmony. Will concede your framework or here. You get to weigh the impacts of the act against the alternative. This assumes you can win the case to make that there's scientific proof of the threat in the first place. Next, you say Zizek no link evidence. Assumes the asteroid is a threat in the first place. That will be the entirety of the 1 and R. If we win that the asteroid is not a threat, will not cause an impact, and at worst, you vote neg on presumption because there's no risk to the ask, and at best, it proves a link to the critique. Also, do not assume post-plane weaponization. Your evidence does not assume post-plane weaponization. The rhetoric used to describe asteroids has led to a justification of space weapons allows the U.S. to arms slide on arms treaties established in 2007. Asteroids is a threat required military response to the impact of the impossible circumvented underwrites to arms treaties. Asteroid impact directly. Scientific validated enemy and construction protection of the fierce military cultural defense promotion of asteroid threat help make the war of space acceptable, help justify the continuation of space weaponry. Now, you say Davidson, but our critique is not a question of being our arguments that your justification for plan is just overblown hype. It's a discussion about justifies future violence to representation, to discourse, create this type of reality. The alternative is compatible with the plan, since you can still solve the impact by doing the plan without security discourse, and the alternative solves your point. The alternative is not a wholesale rejection of security text as we just reject the 1AC security politics, meaning we just have to win that there's no threat in the status quo and that voting affirmative justifies more violence in the plan. Our alternative is issue dependent. It argues that your asteroid fear-mongering leads to weaponization of space. This impact is the amplified. To also lose a battle life. We live in a constant state of fear, become immobilized, unable to act politically. This that this fear defines our lives, not the choice to therefore move any value. This comes before extinction because without any value, Henny Penny would have never known what she was trying to save. Condom. First is our counter-interpretation. We get one counter plan of 1K. This allows for us to test the method and application of the plan. First is to always see critical thinking. The app has to anticipate next block strategy to force them to critical judgments about the round instead of reading usual blocks. 2 is education. To increase the breadth of education, key different arguments. Breadth outweighs this type of depth. 3 is negative flexibility. Being able to take the counter plan of the person is crucial to effective negative strategize because it allows us to test the app in the both way. They have personalized speech and for prep time, which means it's pretty hard to go negative. Time strategies are inevitable. Teams always foster faster, more organized during their speeches than others. We have to read dissets or teas which are capable of debate. Also reject the counterpoint, not the team. The 2 and R will condense, which means it saves the 2 error any abuse. Now the trade-off disset. On to the trade-off disset. Extend across their latest piece of evidence. Empirically, there's not an internal trade-off through the NASA budget. This does not get them out of politics, which means the app cannot access any offense to the flow. I will preempt any offense being applied to the politics flow. All of your spending arguments don't apply because they assume the already set NASA budget, not the congressional legislation or political capital. All of your link terms are not current budget either, so it's not applicable. We'll concede that global warming is inevitable because current CO2 levels. This means you can't access any of your offense because they're not a net decrease of warming status quo or growth plan. Politics. So excited for this. Skip dual path because Obama is using political capital to gain concessions to both Democrats and Republicans. Space policy alienates both groups by shifting the debate to spending. Failure to pass the agreement collapses the alliance and causes a Korean War. Dissent turns the case for a couple reasons. First, the Korean conflict shifts resources and attention away from asteroids. Crushing the economies means there's not a possibility on God's green earth. We are funding asteroid protection. Trade partners are probably a strong alternative link to U.S. agenda to solve your atoms. South Korea is critical to U.S. leadership and strong counterbalance to Korean times tooth bend. U.S. could lose the more economic clout lost the administration ratification after the European Union China to compete with the U.S. global hegemony established goals for economic ties with Korea. We control also the probability of the time frame. Tensions are increasing now. Only skip to prevent it. Stevenson 1-9. The presence of nuclear weapons drastically changes the calculus of both sides because the stakes are literally survival. No one can't take it back and move, and things more rapidly resolve. Now that we anticipate, R1 and C Berkeley evidence assumes your TAA arguments. Concessions are being made, and votes are needed by now Republican parties. Our evidence assumes that our evidence assumes your tabular evidence because the TAA debate is overstated. Only 11 Republicans opposed. This is Washington Post 615. Support among congressional Democrats of the White House Trade Assistance Program has been widespread. The recent Republican story funded letter post trade agreements only drew 11 signatures. Dozen of the class of chief professionals endorsed the rule of the free trade impact. You now say public opposition. But the popularity is irrelevant. Capital is key to leverage Boulay in 5-5. Political capital is straightforward. It's a mere fact the popularity doesn't need to support the key members of the Congress or amendments already signed legislation needs to unify support for his party support Republicans, something the legislature not the high approval ratings. There isn't much Obama can do. Now they say Korea won't pass the agreement, but your evidence is about a specific lobbying group. There's no evidence that this group is key to South Korea passage and South Korea peace skip to after the United States means we have a time frame question. Malcolm 618. Lee believes the government is providing the free trade agreement without waiting for America to lead the way to South Korea. America's always been the beacon of liberty and hope. Next you say there's no spillover. Your evidence about a specific lobbying, not about political capital. Obama thinks our link is true, even if it's not. O'Neill in 2009, for CQ objectives also want to delay action on other issues distracted to his mandate. While 100% many initiatives carefully avoid these expensive potential to pull up the broader agenda, attempt to use estimation of reappropriation as potential is simply not worth the political capital try. If political capital is key to spillover, 100% Congress proves. Lee in 2005, investing political capital supports the chief executive specialized foreign policies. The president may increase domestic capital by cooperating with domestic legislation to spend, implementing foreign policies. 100% Congress supports this history. Now they say intrinsicness. First, our counter-interpretation is the political process happens. We have a few net benefits. First is policy education. We only way to learn about how the government works. The alternatives, Asian conference, which are not work. B is negative ground. Politics is such a key to back tiny asset or new asset. Two, their interpretation means there's no disadvantage because all justify saying internal links are intrinsic. There's no limit to what a logical policy maker do, which means it's done. Fair. Now on to link debate. Powell says that spending for NASA programs will shift the support for FTM because it becomes an issue of money. Your evidence is not specific to the current political climate and certainly does not assume Republican or Democratic votes. Asteroid defense is unproper. Nichols in 2011. The unemployment factor for all this money is considerable. The budget creates to maintain asteroids. The political views will be hard-pressed to sell this populist money is concerned only with the tunnel visions of reality. And NASA funding is not popular in Congress. Timmer in 2011. NASA budget will be consistent by achieving the 2020 leads with more definitions consistent allows current Congress shift the burden, giving how potential bigger issue grow. The Congress tends to turn something into concrete, make it actually a non-starter. And your Friedman assumes the general public loves NASA, but not Republicans or the Democrats. It's not a question of the current political climate, but Republicans now want to decrease space funding, which means the 2011 appropriations prove debate insights partisanship. Capital in 2010. Bonner? What is it? Boehner voted against the recently enacted legislation that broadly helped the rollback funding ever reduced federal budget. We already placed strict budget caps on those limits of spending. Now, the winners win debate. You can't get a win. Resources are more important than popularity. Land 5-5. Approval. Spikes are necessary. Related to policy. The presidency delivers resources. Popularity is necessary, but it's far from sufficient. And political capital is finding now for European in 2009. Each day's in office, political apps are declining. Also, times when West Side capital trade makes it difficult to pass more priorities like healthcare. Andrew Cooper evidence is just wrong. But what is the impact sites? It's not just new economic ties, but security alliances, political friendships fostered through signing the agreement. The perception of FTA signed is good enough. And political capital theories, winners lose. Andrews and 2K. Winning in one arena makes it cause a major loss in another. Needs to build promote one's particular policies and preferences are limiting factors. Straight-up problems for presidents are not isolated to its own party. Look, we win. There's not a risk to an asteroid or that war is not inevitable. We have won this debate already. We just have to win a risk of the criticism or a risk of a link, which means you vote for Farhad and I. Thank you.